Hello guys, and welcome to our third session here on Cherry's ESL. In this video, we would be talking about the prepositions in, on, and at. And I understand that these three words containing just two letters each can be quite confusing. So to lessen your confusion and to take this slow and simple, I will be dividing this session into two parts. This would be the first session, and this session would specifically focus on the prepositions in, on, at with regard places. The second video would be the usage of in, on, at with regard time. So for this video, it would be about places only. Okay. And before we go to your slides, let's just have a shout out to Ediv and Sherwin for suggesting this topic. Hi guys. Okay, so this can be a bit lengthy. So without further ado, let's go to your slides. Okay, so welcome to your slide, guys. And as you can see, it's a blank slide, but don't worry because we will be filling in this one as we go through with this session. Okay, so the first preposition that we are going to have would be the preposition in. Okay, so this preposition, if you are going to use this one, just think of the word inside. They are a bit synonymous. Okay, so if you have an enclosure and you are inside that enclosure, then you use in. Okay, so we have examples like in the bathroom, in the car, in a bank, in a building, in prison or in jail, in the hospital, in the shoebox, in the bag, in your mouth, and in the bottle. Okay. So meaning something is inside of another thing, or maybe someone is inside a certain enclosure, a certain building. Okay, so I think that's clear enough. Okay, next slide. Another usage of preposition in is if you are submerged, or if something is submerged, most probably in water. So we say in the ocean, in a river, in an aquarium, and in the pool. Okay, so there you go. Next slide. Okay, the next usage of in would have something to do with your mode of transportation. So we actually use the preposition in if we refer to taxi, car, elevator, and jeepney or jeep. So we say in a taxi, in a car, in an elevator, or in a jeep. Okay, next slide. Okay, so another usage of in is if you are referring to an area. Okay, so we have an area and you are in that area. So for example, we have in a yard, in the park, in a garden, and in bed. Okay, so that's another usage of in. Next slide. In is also used if you are referring to cities, towns, villages, country, and continents. So we say in a city, in a town, in the village, in the country, or in the countryside, and we also say in the continent. Other specific examples would be in New Delhi, in La Trinidad, in Papay Village, in Romania, and in Antarctica. Okay, so clear? Next slide. One more usage of in is if you are referring to reading materials. So you find something inside a reading material. So we say in a newspaper, in a magazine, in the brochure, in the book, in the journal, in a letter, in the article, and in an essay. Meaning, specifically, you are going to find an information inside these reading materials. If not an information, then maybe a picture or a graph or any other images. Okay, so clear, guys? Okay, then next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we are going to check out some specific usage of the preposition in. In this one, it doesn't really have a rule because these prepositional phrases require the preposition in. It's just as it is. Okay, so we have the phrase in the sky. We also have the phrase in the world. Third one would be in a photograph. We also say in a picture, in the middle, in a line, in the row, in a queue, and in a column. Again, this doesn't really require a rule. It's just as it is. Okay, so next slide. Okay, now let's go to your second preposition, and that would be the preposition on. So if your keyword in the preposition in is inside, your keyword with on would be on top. Okay, so if something or someone is on top of another thing, then you would use the preposition on. So we have the phrases on the floor, on a plate, on a bicycle, on the street, on the beach, on an island, on a balcony, on a horse, on a motorcycle, on the grass, on a chair, and on a road. Okay. So I hope that's clear. Now let's go to the next slide. Another usage also of on is if something is attached to another thing. So we actually say on the ceiling, on the wall, on the door, on the bulletin board, on a bottle, on the shirt, and on the envelope. Okay. So, clear? I hope so. Next slide. On is also used for mode of transportation. So we say on a bus, on a plane, on a ship, on a train, on a boat, and on a subway. Okay, we will have a follow-up question about this one as we go on, so just continue listening. Okay, next slide. Okay, there are also other specific usage of on that really doesn't require a rule, but it's just how the phrase is written, or it's just how it is. So we have on the left or on the right, we have on the ground, we can also say on the first floor, on the second floor. We also have the phrase on a map. We also say on the menu or on the list. We also say on the tree. So you can say there are apples on the tree. We also say on a farm. And we also have the phrase on the way to. Okay? Or you can also say on your way home, or on the way to your, instead of saying on the way to your house, then you can say you're on the way home. Okay. So next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we are going to contrast in and on. And the usual question, if we have these two prepositions, is why do we say in a car, but we say on a bus? So if you can remember our previous examples before, we say in a car, in a taxi, in an elevator, in a jeep. But we say on a bus, on an airplane, on the ship, on a boat, and others. So, what would be the answer to this question? The answer is if the mode of transportation is big enough for someone to walk around, then use the preposition on. But if not, use the preposition in. In other words, the bigger the transportation is, then you use on. But if it's something smaller, then you use in. Okay? Clear, guys? So there you go. Let's go now to your preposition at. Next slide. Okay, so in here, let's have your last preposition, at. If your keyword for in is inside, and your keyword for on is on top, for at, your keyword here is beside or near. So we say at the bus stop, at the door, at the traffic light, and at the window. Okay? So something is beside or near another thing. So that's the general usage of at. Okay, next slide. We also use at for the following directions. We say at the top, at the bottom, and at the end. So maybe we can say at the top of the page, at the bottom of the page, and at the end of the block. So the words top, bottom, and end would have the preposition at. Okay. Next slide. We also use at for an event that somebody is at. So we say at a party, at the conference, at a meeting, at a concert, at the wedding, and at the graduation program. So if you notice, these ones refer to events. And if you are in that event, then you use the preposition at. Or if somebody is in that event, then it would have to take the preposition at. So maybe you can say, they are at a concert, he is at the wedding, they are at the conference. Okay? Clear? Okay, next slide. We also use at when we say where an event happens. So let's have the sentence, the program is at the audio visual room. So you say at the audio visual room because you are referring to an event, which is the program. Okay. Now let's take a look at this sentence. The new sound system is in the audio visual room. So if you notice, it is using the preposition in the audio visual room. Because you are referring to something, the sound system, which is inside the audio visual room. So you say in the audio visual room. You do not say at the audio visual room. Okay, but again, if you are referring to an event happening to a certain place, then you use the preposition at. Okay, I hope this is clear to you guys. Okay, next slide. Okay, another usage of the preposition at is we use it to refer to somebody's house or place of work with reference to their occupation. So, for example, you say at Jerry's house. Or you can just say at Jerry's. So, aside from saying I was at Jerry's house yesterday, you can also say I was at Jerry's yesterday. Okay, so this is referring to somebody's house. If you are referring to place of work, then you can say at the doctor's, at the hairdresser's, and at the dentist's, and others. Okay. So again, referring to somebody's place of work in reference to their occupation. Okay, next slide. So in here, we are going to have the other specific usage of at. Okay, the phrase is just as it is. It is using the preposition at. Okay, so we have the phrase at home. We also have the phrase at work. We also have the phrases at school, at university, at college, at the station, and at the airport. So these are the specific usage of at. The phrase simply is using the preposition at. No rules involved. Okay? Next slide. So for more clarification, in this slide, we are going to contrast two sentences. The first sentence would say, we had a meeting at the hotel. The second sentence says, the rooms in the hotel are being inspected. So if you take a look at the first sentence, it is using the preposition at the hotel. But in the second sentence, it is using the preposition in the hotel. Okay. So again, going back to events, we actually use the preposition at if we are going to refer to a place where an event is held. So in the first sentence, you have an event here. And what is the event? A meeting. And it is held at a hotel. So the preposition at is going to be used at the hotel. Okay? However, in the second sentence, there's no event here. We just have rooms. Okay? And these rooms are the things or are the ones that are inside the hotel. So you say, in the hotel. Okay? So, are we clear with these two sentences? How we are going to use at the hotel and in the hotel? Okay, next slide. Okay, so in this slide, this is also for more clarification. We are also going to contrast two sentences, just like the previous slide. So the first sentence will say, they were at Jerry's for the weekend. Or, to make it clear, they were at Jerry's house for the weekend. And the second sentence would say, it's always warm in Jerry's house. The air conditioner doesn't work. So the first sentence would say at Jerry's house, or you can just say at Jerry's. And the second sentence would say in Jerry's house. Okay, so the first sentence is using the preposition at because you are referring again to somebody's house. Do you remember when we were talking about that rule? Okay, and then the second sentence is using the preposition in, and it says in Jerry's house because you are simply referring to what is felt inside that house. So there is warmth inside Jerry's house. So you say in Jerry's house. You do not say at Jerry's house. Okay. So I hope this is clear to you guys. Anyway, if you have any questions, just feel free to comment and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Okay, so that's the end of your slides. Well, anyway, just in case you are interested to test your understanding of this session, let's have a quiz. And this is the slide quiz. Okay. So, your quiz would be to differentiate the following phrases: in the bottle and on the bottle, at the window and on the window, in the hospital and at the hospital. You may also show their differences by constructing sentences that use these phrases. Okay? Good luck, guys. I hope you take the quiz. So there you go for now, guys. I hope you have learned a bit of something new. If not, I hope you have refreshed your prior knowledge. Or better yet, I hope you had taken notes of what we have just discussed. Because if you have your notes, then you can just consult it anytime you get confused of when you are going to use the prepositions in, on, and at with regard places. And again, guys, this is the first part of our discussion about in, on, and at. The second part would be focusing already with time. So please anticipate our next video about the prepositions in, on, at with regard time. Okay? So there you go, guys. Bye for now. Godspeed, everyone.